The husband followed the army as a medic and took his frail and sickly sister-in-law with him. It was only because the rural conditions were poor, and he was afraid she would suffer. I had a difficult childbirth and a high fever, but he refused to return, using the excuse that sister-in-law's cold is more serious, which left me with lifelong health issues. After the child was born, weak and sickly, I begged him to bring back some medicine, but he coldly replied, "My brother's child needs it more. You and the child should endure it." I waited until he came home, thinking that life would finally be stable, only to be met with these words, "Let's get a divorce. My brother's child is being called a bastard at school. We can't let him live without a proper name any longer." I was so angry I could have died. Opening my eyes again, I found myself back on the day of my difficult childbirth. This time, I had already arranged for a doctor in advance, gave birth smoothly, and immediately drafted the divorce papers. This time, I will make sure both him and his sister-in-law pay the price. Right after giving birth, without even going through the postpartum confinement, I rushed to the military unit where Blaise was stationed. When I arrived at the guard post, they heard I was looking for Blaise and warmly welcomed me in. A young soldier nearby joked, "Dr. Who is this? Could it be your admirer? I didn't expect you and your wife to be so happy. Yet there are still girls willing to come all this way to see you." I pushed the door open, wanting to greet Blaise. I didn't expect that as soon as he saw me, his face immediately darkened, because sister-in-law Luna Chin was lying naked beneath him, and Blaise's hand, which was massaging her, was still resting on her back. The soldier nearby was already used to such scenes and, smiling, closed the door for us. Hearing my voice, Luna Chin quickly tightened her clothes and looked up at me. "Kira, what brings you here?" As soon as the words left my mouth, I looked at the other person's face, and we both froze in surprise. Luna Chin is 6 years older than me, yet her skin is so delicate it seems as if it could be broken by a gentle touch, without a single wrinkle on her face. Meanwhile, I had just given birth, my body was weak, and I still carried the lingering scent of blood and milk. Blaise, seeing this, hurriedly grabbed a piece of clothing and carefully put it on Luna Chin. As he dressed her, his face was full of displeasure. "Kira Song, why did you come here? Don't you know the military is very strict? It's not a place you can just come and go as you please." I frowned deeply, looking at him coldly. "If your sister-in-law can settle down here, why can't I, as your wife, come? Or is it that you don't want them to know we're married, and you'd rather they assume you and your sister-in-law are the couple?" Luna Chin finally realized what was happening. She walked over and leaned against Blaise, looking a bit aggrieved. "Kira, what kind of talk is this? We only let them call us that here to avoid gossip. Blaise and I are completely innocent. There's nothing between us." I gave them a cold glance. Blaise turned his head away, avoiding my gaze. At that moment, the door was knocked on again. A chubby, fair-skinned little boy rushed in and grabbed Blaise's arm. "Dad, when are you going to transfer me to your household registration? They all say that if the household registration isn't under the same name, we're not a family. But you're clearly my dad." Blaise's expression changed instantly upon hearing the word dad. He quickly shot a glance at Luna Chin, who hurriedly pulled the child away. I watched the child's innocent figure retreating, then turned to look at Blaise, whose eyes were beginning to show panic. "So impressive. Blaise, you don't care about your own child. But you rushed to be a father to someone else's." He avoided eye contact and looked at my flat stomach. "You gave birth. I've been really busy lately and didn't go back to see you. How could you come here right after giving birth?" I ignored him, took 2 steps back, and looked at him coldly. Blaise seemed to suddenly realize something, forcing a smile as he moved closer. "Kira, what do kids know? They're just talking nonsense. Besides, he's my older brother's child. My brother and I are as close as real brothers, so it's not wrong for him to call me dad. If you're willing, you can also transfer Tianxia to our household registration." I scoffed, finding Blaise's words utterly absurd, but this wasn't the first time he had said something like this. 3 years ago, Blaise's eldest brother passed away due to an accident. Under his mother-in-law's arrangement, he naturally took on the heavy responsibility of caring for his sister-in-law and nephew. At first, he only occasionally helped out with their care. Little did he know that the more he helped, the closer he became, to the point where he almost regarded his sister-in-law as his own wife. Until 2 years ago, Blaise Xie was assigned to join the military. I thought Blaise Xie would take me with him. But he said Luna Qin was unwell and needed him to take care of her, so he quietly left with her, leaving me alone to care for the elderly mother-in-law. Before he left, he promised to come back to see me every year, and I believed him. In the first year, he did come back once. No matter how many letters I wrote or inquiries I made, he never responded again. Not even a penny of the allowance or rations was sent, leaving only the words, "The team is tight. Nothing can be allocated." I said I wanted to go find him, but he flatly refused. Following the army is dangerous, it's not suitable for a woman to get involved. I naively thought he was considering my well-being and even believed that his position as a military doctor was the highest honor. As his wife, I didn't want to trouble him, so I gradually stopped disturbing him. It wasn't until I had a difficult childbirth and the village doctors were at a loss, saying only Blaise Xie could save me. I sent someone to deliver a message to him day and night, but he only replied with, "My sister-in-law has a fever, and I can't get away." After the child was born, I developed a chronic illness. The first thing he did after returning from his military service was not to visit, but to ask for a divorce, all because he said he couldn't let Xie Tianxi become a fatherless bastard. I just find it ridiculous. Luna Qin and her years with the army. Everyone assumed she was Mrs. Xie, while my child and I were nothing but burdens without a name or status. I was about to say something when a sudden crash came from outside the door. Xie Tianxi burst in like a cannonball, slamming me into the fireplace. My back slammed hard against the furnace, the scorching metal pressing against my arm. I let out a muffled groan of pain, watching helplessly as a layer of my skin peeled off. "You wretched woman, what are you doing here? Are you trying to steal Dad from me?" Xie Tianxi yelled at me. "You're just a poor country bumpkin. You make me sick just looking at you." He spoke rapidly, still in perfect Mandarin. Luna Qin quickly stepped forward to pull him aside, gently coaxing, "Tianxi, speak to her in the local dialect. She doesn't understand Mandarin." I looked down at Xie Tianxi and smiled. "Who are you calling a cheap woman? Who taught you that?" He was clearly taken aback. "No one in our village speaks Mandarin, and It was to get closer to Blaise Xie that I learned it word by word from the TV series. My arms were already blistered, aching and numb. Blaise Xie stood far away and tossed over a piece of gauze. "Kira, the child doesn't know any better. Don't take it to heart, just rinse that injury with cold water yourself." I stared at him intently. "You're a doctor. You know that if this kind of burn isn't treated, it could get infected. Yet you're telling me to bandage it myself." He glanced at me impatiently. "If you hadn't come here recklessly on your own, would this have happened? Once you've treated your wound, go back," he added, without even taking a step closer. I stared at him blankly, my throat as if blocked by something, unable to utter a sound. I never thought that in his eyes I was such an unnecessary presence. "But I don't plan on going back." Blaise Xie, hearing these words, spoke with suppressed dissatisfaction. "Kira Song, you can't stay here. I told you a long time ago, didn't I? This place is dangerous. It's not somewhere a woman should be. Go back tomorrow and wait for me at home." I looked at him, and my eyes instantly reddened. I was injured during childbirth and fell ill afterward, so I can't do any farm work. There's no food ration at home. The child has no milk to drink, and my body is about to give out. What do you want me to go back for? To wait for death? Blaise Xie frowned, looking at me with disgust. "During the flu outbreak a while ago, I sent you a bunch of medicine. How could you still get sick? There were also grain coupons and cloth coupons, all sent back on time. Why are you pretending to be pitiful now?" I laughed. He laughed until tears streamed down his face. I widened my eyes, staring at him intently. "Blaise Xie, you never sent me any of those things, even when I was pregnant, running a high fever and nearly losing consciousness, and wrote you so many letters. You never came back even once. Do you know what I ate throughout my entire pregnancy?" Blaise Xie frowned, his tone filled with disbelief. "How is that possible?" He paused mid-sentence, as if suddenly realizing something, and turned to look at Luna Qin, somewhat incredulously. He walked over to her and whispered a few words. Shortly after, Xie Tianxi's voice came from inside the room. "Dad, how could you side with an outsider to bully Mom? Those things originally belonged to the three of us. Why should we give them to an outsider?" Blaise Xie was busy comforting Xie Tianxi and only came out after a while, his tone turning stiff. Kira, it was Tianxi who tore those letters. I didn't know, he's still young, and I didn't notice either. The things that were supposed to be sent to you earlier, maybe sister-in-law forgot for a moment. I just find it ridiculous. So you never suspected why you never heard from me. And you never even bothered to ask. Blaise Xie frowned, looking completely justified. How was I supposed to know what was going on your end? I thought you just didn't want to write to me. Besides, sister-in-law spent all that money on me anyway. What are you so angry about now? I gritted my teeth, unable to speak. Perhaps my expression was too grim. Blaise Xie came over and held my hand. Kira, don't be like this. In the future, I'll go to the mailroom to get the letters myself. And I'll care about how you and the child are doing. Don't be upset. You haven't been feeling well lately, so stay here a few more days. I'll help you recuperate. Wait until you're fully recovered before going back. The child needs you too. I snorted coldly, not wanting to engage with him at all, and turned to go inside. Blaise Xie followed closely behind. With no one else in the room, his gaze suddenly turned intense. He sat by my bedside and whispered softly, Kira, I miss you so much. After saying that, he couldn't wait to kiss my lips. The next second, there was a violent knocking at the door. Xie Tianxi sat at the doorway, his arm clearly showing a large area of red, swollen burns. Luna Qin stood by in a panic, completely at a loss. She cried, gasping for breath, I don't know what happened. That kettle wasn't supposed to be there. Maybe Kira moved it when she poured water earlier, and Tianxi didn't notice and bumped into it. Xie Tianxi cried while pointing at me and cursing loudly, it's all because of this bastard, it's all because of this wretched woman. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have been scalded at all. Dad, I don't want her living here, make her leave. Blaise Xie's expression clearly showed impatience, his eyes turning colder. Kira, you can stay here if you want, but why do you have to mess with things? Do you know that children have delicate skin? What if it leaves a scar after being burned? I frowned. Blaise Xie, I didn't even touch it just now. Before I could finish my sentence, Blaise Xie impatiently bumped into me and walked towards Xie Tianxi. My arm, still not fully healed from a burn, hit the wall behind me, and a sharp pain surged from deep within my nerves. Blaise Xie didn't even glance at me, only saying coldly, Kira Song, your presence has disrupted the harmony here. Can't you see, Tianxi has been very irritable these past 2 days. I've never seen him like this before. I stared at him blankly, my throat tightening. Are you asking me to leave? He didn't answer, just silently looked away, as if in silent agreement. After a long time, I finally spoke. I'm not leaving. You are my husband. The one who should leave isn't me. Hearing this, Blaise Xie sighed in frustration and dragged me out the door. My arm was still bleeding, but he didn't even glance at it, just roughly stuffed a few food ration coupons into my bag. Get out of here. Don't get in our way. Hearing this, I felt a sudden tightness in my chest, and my breathing became uneven. Turning around, I saw him squatting beside Xie Tianxi, applying medicine to his wounds. It's not that he doesn't know how to be good to people, he simply doesn't want to be good to me. Just moments ago, when he was bandaging Xie Tianxi, his technique was skillful and meticulous, but when it came to me, he wouldn't even hand a piece of gauze a little closer. The onlookers grew in number. Their eyes filled with disdain. The sound of Xie Tianxi's crying continued to come from inside the room, mixed with Blaise Xie's low, comforting words to Luna Qin. Someone in the crowd whispered, isn't this the mistress? Exactly. I always said Dr. Xie seems upright. Not like someone who would have an affair. This woman has no shame, probably rushing to break up someone else's family. Before I could even retort, the door suddenly swung open. Blaise Xie stood at the doorway, his gaze cold. Kira Song, get out of here, don't make a scene. Even Luna Qin spoke up, holding Xie Tianxi in her arms, her tone gentle. Kira, Tianxi is fine, even if you left such a big scar on him, he won't blame you. The voices around me grew increasingly chaotic. But I suddenly fell silent. I looked up at Luna Qin, a slow smile curling at the corner of my mouth. Then, I knelt down step by step, wailing uncontrollably. Sister-in-law, Tianxi is your and eldest brother's child. Don't worry, I will take good care of them and treat them as my own sons. I looked up at her, tears in my eyes, but my tone carried a sarcastic plea. Please, give my husband back to me. Okay, the people around me fell silent upon hearing me say husband. They all turned to look at Blaise Xie. their eyes filled with confusion and suspicion. Wait a minute, she just called Luna Chin's sister-in-law. What's the relationship here? I'm from the same village as Dr. Xie, and I also remember that Dr. Xie's wife's surname seems to be Song, not Chin, right? I thought I remembered it wrong before, but it turns out something really happened. All sorts of whispers reached Blaze Xie's ears, his face darkened, and he abruptly pushed through the crowd. Forcibly pulling me up from the ground, I struggled against him, and my freshly scalded arm was exposed in the struggle. The skin on the arm was torn and bleeding, causing everyone to gasp in shock. My God, is that arm almost rotten? How did this happen? Could it be that Luna Chin was jealous of her and hurt her? Blaze Xie couldn't pull me along, so he whispered in my ear, "Kira, let's go inside to talk. Don't make a scene out here," but I shook my head desperately, my voice choked with sobs. "Blaze, please stop scolding me, and stop hitting me. I agree to put Tianxi in my household register. Is that not enough? Back then, you said Luna Chin was in poor health and insisted on taking her with the army. But now, she doesn't look like a patient at all. She's much healthier than I am. I beg you. Don't divorce me. Don't abandon our child." As soon as I spoke, everyone around instantly understood the whole story. Several young soldiers, their faces ashen, stepped forward. "Dr. Xie, we always thought you were a good man, but we never expected you to do something like this. How could you bring your sister-in-law to join the army with you? Everyone knows only spouses are allowed to apply for military accompaniment." Luna Chin couldn't help but step forward, her face pale. "That's not how it is. Blaze and I are innocent. We didn't do anything." Blaze Xie also became anxious. "Everyone, don't misunderstand, my elder brother has passed away. So it's only right for me to take care of my sister-in-law." But the crowd no longer had the same trusting expression as before. "Even if you're taking care of her, is this really the way to do it? A widow following the army? How would that look if word got out, in our village? Just the gossip alone would be enough to drown her. Dr. Xie gets so many food stamps every month, claiming it's to support his mother, but he doesn't send a single one back home. His wife and children are left eating chaff and wild herbs, watching them go from doubt to clarity one by one." I finally couldn't hold back my tears. "Blaze Xie, then tell me, if it weren't for your selfish motives, why have you never cared about our family? The day the child was born with a high fever, I came to beg for medicine, but you said Xie Tianxi's health was more important. Do you know how your mother has treated me all these years? No food to eat. I didn't gain a single pound during my pregnancy. Instead I lost 10 pounds. Who would have thought I'm actually 6 years younger than my sister-in-law?" The crowd was completely stunned, all eyes fixed on Blaze Xie's face. "Oh my God, I thought this woman was older than Luna Chin. But she's actually younger. That complexion, that physique, it's like she's been completely worn out. Her child almost died, and Blaze Xie is still here indulging in romantic fantasies." The calm in Blaze Xie's eyes finally began to crumble. He called my name in a low voice, stepped forward, and carefully held my trembling hand. "I'm sorry, Kira, I didn't know. I really didn't know. I swear, once this mission is over, I will go home and give you and the child a better life." I turned my face away, not wanting to look at him anymore. Just then, the minister strode over with several officers. Seeing me kneeling on the ground, covered in wounds, his expression changed abruptly. "What's going on? How did this happen?" Several officers quietly reported the details of what had just happened in his ear, and the minister frowned deeply. "Blaze Xie, what on earth is going on?" Blaze Xie shuddered. "It's all right, minister. This is a family matter." After saying this, he hurriedly reached out to pull me. "Kira, come on, let's go inside and talk." But the minister stopped him, frowning as he looked at him. "She's hurt this badly, and you're still being so rough with her. Even though you're a doctor, you're still with the army, and you must follow military discipline. When you reported the information for joining the army, whose name did you use? Was it Kira Song or Luna Chin?" Blaze Xie mumbled, not daring to speak. The minister merely glanced at him sideways before speaking. "If you dare to forge your identity or falsify information, that is deceiving both superiors and subordinates, and a desecration of military discipline." As he spoke, the minister gently helped me to stand behind him, looking at my bruised and battered arm. His eyes were filled with heartache. "Miss, tell me, what help do you need? I can make decisions for you." From now on, you will be an official family member of our unit and receive the best treatment. Alright, I looked at him, tears finally unable to hold back and falling, yet I still gently shook my head. No, I just want to divorce Blaise Sierre. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone froze. Their eyes instantly fixed on me. Blaise Sierre abruptly pushed Luna Chin aside and rushed over to me. What did you say, Kira? Are you crazy? You just gave birth, and now you want to divorce me? Yes, I want a divorce from you. My voice was steady, yet every word cut like a knife. All these years, you've only cared about your sister-in-law's family. You've never paid attention to me, and you've never cared about our child. I always thought you were just too busy in the military. It wasn't until today that I realized you've been raising someone else's child as if he were your own son. I don't want you anymore. Even if I starve to death with our child, I don't want him to have a father as fickle as you. Blaise Sierre's face instantly changed, and he hurriedly stepped forward to grab my hand. Kira, what are you saying? There must be a misunderstanding here. I'm not as terrible as you're making me out to be. We can't get divorced. I looked up and met his gaze, asking coldly, why not? Haven't you already started a new family? Why are you still clinging to me now? I shook him off and turned to face the minister. Minister, I formally request a divorce. I hope you will approve it. Upon hearing this, Blaise Sierre grew anxious. He pulled me over, his face grim. Minister, this matter requires my approval to proceed. She alone cannot make the decision. The minister's face darkened, his gaze noticeably cooling. Though he didn't agree, he still shook his head at me helplessly. I also understood the minister's difficulties and decided to settle in first, then carefully think of a strategy. Seeing that I had softened my stance, the minister immediately instructed someone to take good care of me. A short while later, someone brought clean clothes and arranged a room for me, advising me to rest well in the coming days. I had originally planned to leave as soon as I thought of a way to get a divorce, but I didn't expect Blaise Sierre to hold me back and refuse to let me go. He followed me into the room and spoke in a hushed voice. Kira, let's not get divorced, okay? I can't live without you. Besides, we already have a child. I don't want him to grow up without a father from the moment he's born. I looked at him and sneered. Fine, then have your sister-in-law move out and stop living together. Blaise Sierre's face suddenly changed, his tone carrying a hint of impatience. Where can she go? Being a woman, she's in poor health. How will she manage? Besides, Tianxi is timid, without his father. How will he get by at school? I looked at him, my gaze as cold as ice. If you care so much about them, why have you never cared about me? Do you know how your mother has been mistreating me for the past 3 years? The day before I got pregnant, she still forced me to carry water from the mountain to bathe. I walked back and forth more than a dozen times, falling until I was covered in injuries, unable to even stand up, and she still called me useless. Blaise Sierre, when you were taking care of someone else's son, did you ever think that your wife was also suffering, that your child was also sick? Blaise Sierre opened his mouth, wanting to say something. In the end, he just silently lowered his head and let out a long, deep sigh. The room was eerily quiet, so much so that even the rustling of the wind through the branches outside could be heard clearly. Blaise Sierre was still sighing, his lips slightly moving, but he opened his mouth several times without uttering a word. I suddenly spoke up. You won't agree to the divorce, will you? I turned around, my face no longer showing a trace of pleading. But I don't need you to sign it either. He froze. I pulled a piece of paper from under the pillow and unfolded it slowly. It was the report I had written, with each character clearly and meticulously penned. It doesn't matter if you refuse to sign the divorce agreement. I've already written a report and am ready to send it to the Military District Supervision Department. I looked at him and said, word by word, you arbitrarily altered the military family registration, reporting your widowed sister-in-law as your spouse. This matter, if investigated, is no small issue. Blaise Sierre's face instantly turned pale, and his voice lowered. Are you threatening me? I smiled, and in that moment, I even felt a sense of relief. It's not a threat, it's a reminder. I've finally learned not to rely on your conscience, so I'm giving you a choice. Keep your pride, or get a divorce and return everything that belongs to me. You decide. Blaise Sierre didn't answer, just held my hand and kept sighing. After a long while, he murmured, Kira, give me a month. Okay, I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. I nodded. After all, my health isn't great right now, and I do need Blaise Sier to help me recuperate. Besides, the evidence I currently have is enough to bring him down, so I'm not afraid of any new moves he might make. I settled in at the military base, and Blaise Sier came to see me every day. He was trying to sound me out, not wanting to divorce me, but every time I was very firm. As long as he said he didn't want a divorce, I would make him send his sister-in-law away. After saying it a few times, Blaise Sier seemed to grow a bit impatient, and his initial reluctance to divorce began to waver. Still, he insisted he didn't want a divorce, but ever since I brought up the idea of divorce that day, the atmosphere in the military unit changed. The minister personally kept me and arranged for me to work as an assistant in the medical office. It was said to be taking care of the doctor's family, but I knew it was more like a clear message. But Luna Chin and Blaise Sier pretended not to understand and continued to do as they pleased every day. I didn't bother with them either. After all, after divorcing Blaise Sier, I needed to have my own career, so during these days, I learned many new things. During the day, I assisted with medication registration, and at night, I gradually organized the account books from these years. I even made 3 copies of the military application form that Blaise Sier secretly altered that year, sorted them into categories, and placed them in envelopes. When the minister came for inspection, he casually praised me for being meticulous, then said to Blaise Sier, "Your wife is truly a great help at home. You should cherish her dearly." He forced a stiff smile on his face, while Luna Chin beside him lowered her head, a faint trace of panic flickering in her eyes. Blaise Sier, noticing that I had been bringing up divorce less frequently lately, excitedly began planning our life after the military assignment ends, but he didn't know that during the day, while I was helping manage the medicine inventory, a young soldier came and handed me a letter signed by the Beijing Garrison Command Discipline Inspection Department. I opened it and saw that it was an acknowledgement letter. The issues you reported, such as falsification of military family information, private use of military resources, and failure to fulfill military family support duties, have been received. A formal investigation will be conducted after verification. Thank you for your cooperation and trust. I folded the letter and placed it inside a book behind the medicine cabinet. From this moment on, Blaise Sier's good days were truly over. But before Blaise Sier's scandal broke, Luna Chin got into trouble first. I was organizing the medicine cabinet in the infirmary when someone ran in breathlessly, speaking excitedly. "Kira, come out quickly. Dr. Sier has gone crazy. He hit someone." I frowned and put down what I was holding. As I stepped out the door, I saw Blaise Sier rushing into the military camp's living area, his face deathly pale, his eyes almost filled with despair. He kicked open Luna Chin's door. A logistics soldier in military uniform inside the room hadn't even reacted before he was knocked down with a punch. Luna Chin was only wearing a loose nightgown, with light makeup on her face, and she was still holding the bracelet that Blaise Sier had obtained for her. She panicked, crying as she tried to stop Blaise Sier. "Blaise, listen to me. It's not what you think, not what I think." Blaise Sier seemed to have gone mad, his voice hoarse and strained. "I even lost my wife for you, and it turns out you were already with someone else." He roared like a wild beast, his eyes bloodshot, his fingers trembling. "You said you were unwell and asked me to take you with the army. You said you were afraid the villagers would bully you, afraid that no one would take care of Tianxi. And what happened? You're in my house, sleeping with another man. Are you worthy of my brother?" I stood at the very edge of the crowd, watching quietly without saying a word. Someone recognized me and whispered, "Kira, aren't you going in to take a look?" I smiled and shook my head. The next morning, Blaise Sier arrived. He stood at the door of the infirmary, unshaven and with hollow eyes. He looked at me, his voice hoarse. "Kira, I was wrong. I realize now that you are the most important. That bitch Luna Chin has been deceiving me all along. She even used the food stamps I gave you to support another man." I didn't look at him and continued taking inventory of the medical supplies. "Didn't you say, she is the widow of our elder brother, and I should take care of her on his behalf? You said she definitely wouldn't covet your things, didn't you?" He was left speechless, remaining silent for a long time before finally speaking. "She deceived me. I truly didn't know she was with someone else. But how are you any different? You've been deceiving me all along." I looked up at him, my gaze as calm as a stagnant pond. Do you really think I didn't notice the unusual relationship between you and Luna Chin? Do you really believe that when you brought her along with the army, I would think your relationship was innocent? It's just that back then, I was still foolish, still in love with you. So I chose to deceive myself into believing you. Not anymore. His voice trembled. I chuckled softly. Blaise Xie. Every single thing you've done has been you pushing me away with your own hands. He fell to his knees with a thud. Kira, please, don't leave me. I'm willing to put the house and land under your name. I just beg you not to report me, not to get a divorce. As I looked at the disheveled man before me, the image of myself, heavily pregnant, falling down the mountain flashed through my mind. I glanced down at him, my voice as soft as it could be. I am no longer the woman you thought would forgive you and depend on you. Less than 10 days after the report was submitted, the disciplinary commission issued an official document. Blaise Xie has been discharged from military service, stripped of his military medical qualifications, and permanently barred from re-employment due to issues including unauthorized alteration of military family information, misuse of supplies, and falsification of accompanying military details. Luna Chin was also repatriated to her place of origin, with the previously claimed care for the widow being redefined as supporting the widowed sister-in-law. Those colleagues who had privately supported him no longer said a word in his defense, and Xie Tianxi, because of the Luna Chin incident, was utterly humiliated. Now he dares not leave the house, muttering like a madman every day that he is not a bastard, that he has a father, but all of that has nothing to do with me anymore. After Blaise Xie was detained, the minister approved my divorce application. The speed of the process even took me by surprise. I left the military district with my child, officially divorced. On the day I left, many people came to see me off, including the soldier who stood up for me. He handed me a letter. It's from the Military Commission Garrison Department. They've read your work report and the letter of recommendation about your deeds, and they're willing to invite you to join the medical and logistics team. I was taken aback for a moment, then took the letter, my heart suddenly leaping with joy. Upon arriving in the capital, the work was busy but steady. The child has also received systematic treatment, and his health is gradually improving. I used the money I earned to rent a house and started a new life. The child is slowly learning to speak and has started calling me Mom. He is no longer the poor, malnourished child from the previous life. In this life, I fed him until he was chubby, and by the age of 3, he could already recite the 300 Tang poems. In the 4th year of arriving in the capital, I took the child to the hospital for a follow-up appointment. Outside the entrance, a military vehicle was parked not far away. It was my current direct superior who came to pick me up in person. He has always been very supportive of me, not the kind of passionate pursuit, but a patient wait. He smiled and waved at me, holding the gifts he had bought for me in Xiaobao. I was just finishing wrapping the scarf around the child, ready to walk toward him, when I heard a hoarse shout from behind, Kira. I didn't move, nor did I stop walking, until the voice called out a second time, hoarse and pleading, Kira Song, wait for me, it's me, Blaise Xie. Only then did I turn around. Blaise Xie was wearing an old military coat that had been washed to a pale color. His face no longer bearing the heroic spirit of the past, only exhaustion and weariness. He had lost a lot of weight, with dark circles under his eyes from years of poor sleep. He cautiously approached me, his voice trembling. Kira, I'm out of prison. I've thought a lot over these years in jail. I was wrong. How are you doing now? I glanced down at him, my tone cold and steady. Dr. Xie, you've mistaken me for someone else. I took the child's hand and got into the car without looking back. The political director glanced back at him, looking at me with eyes full of concern. Kira, who is that? Is he a homeless person you kindly helped, and now he's bothering you? Do you need me to step in and drive him away for you? I shook my head. Don't worry about him, he's just a useless person. The car door slowly closed. At that moment, I saw Blaise Xie kneeling on the ground, his eyes red, as if he was still calling out my name, but I could no longer hear that voice. I thought things would end right there. I never expected that since that day, Blaise Xie would wait at the hospital where I work every single day like a madman. Coincidentally, one day my boss didn't come to pick me up, as I was leaving work alone after the night shift. I saw Blaise Xie standing under the plane tree across the street. He was wearing that faded military coat. His hair was a mess, and he was holding a lunchbox in his hand. He ran over to me with an awkward, ingratiating smile on his face. "Kira, I specially made your favorite pork rib soup, and it's still warm. Would you like some?" I didn't stop, not even glancing at him as I walked around him. He grew anxious, dropped the lunchbox, and chased after me, spreading his arms to block my way. "Are you really not giving me any chance at all? I've already lost everything. I can't get into the military. I can't even get into a hospital. Everyone looks down on me. I just want you to forgive me once." I finally stopped walking, slowly raised my eyes to look at him, my gaze devoid of any emotion. "Blaise, why should I forgive you? Do you think just because you're in a sorry state, I should soften my heart? But have you forgotten? The most wretched moment of my life was when you kicked me out the door, when I begged you not to drive me away. You said Luna Chin would be disgusted at the sight of me. What's with this sudden show of affection now?" He froze, a contorted expression of regret spreading across his face. I was out of my mind back then. I was despicable. I raised my hand to cut him off. "Shut up, Blaise. I feel sick just hearing you say one more word. Aren't you in love with your sister-in-law and her son? Didn't you say Tianxi would get bullied at school without a father? Then why don't you go back to them? What, now that you realize you're a joke, you want to drag me down with you again? Aren't you supposed to be broad-minded? What's the big deal about wearing a green hat?" He froze in place, his eyes reddening, his voice almost pleading. "Kira, I've really changed. Don't be so heartless, even if you won't forgive me. At least let me see our child. After all, he's never met his father since he was born." I chuckled softly, taking a step closer to him and whispering in his ear, "No. He already has a father." Blaise froze in place, not understanding what I meant. I raised an eyebrow at him but didn't say anything more. He reached out to grab me, but I pushed his hand away and walked straight toward the hospital entrance. Behind me, he collapsed to the ground as if his soul had left him. Murmuring my name over and over, he threw me into the mud, but I bloomed a flower from it. Now he wants to pick it back up, but all I feel is disgust. He lives in regret. While I live in the light, I will take my child and pursue the good life that belongs to me. The end. That's all for the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more exciting. My husband said we should be filial to his parents, so every month he sends half of our meat and grain ration coupons to them. I believed him. But that day I saw with my own eyes that he took a large stack of his just received salary and gave it to his brother's widow. "Yao Yao, you must take good care of yourself, or I'll feel heartbroken." I was so furious that I made a scene. In the midst of our argument, he pushed me into a filthy ditch. I accidentally hit my head and choked on the foul, stinking water while he mocked me. That push made me completely lose all feelings for him. But later, when I got into college, I heard he abandoned Xiao Ya, crying and begging just to see me. I laughed. Get lost. The moment I received the admission letter, I finally couldn't hold back my tears. No one knew how much effort I had put in and how many hardships I had endured for this moment. On the day of filling out my college application, I didn't hesitate to choose the distant Jing University. The teacher joked, "You're going so far away. Will your husband agree? What if you come back and find his run off with someone else?" Every time my husband Jianghua is mentioned, people always think I married above my station. After all, he is so outstanding, while I seem so ordinary. He is diligent and ambitious, with outstanding looks, and became the director of the coal mine at a young age, while I, just because of a childhood, only by being his childhood sweetheart could one have the chance to stand by his side. I smiled and said firmly, "If it's gone, it's gone. What's meant to be mine will be mine. And what isn't, forcing it won't help. If the heart is no longer there, what's the point of staying together? Besides, free love is encouraged nowadays. I can always start over." Perhaps startled by my words, the teacher patted my shoulder, reminding me to lower my voice and not to speak so absolutely. He also whispered, "Jiang Huai is a rare good man. He has a good job and excellent qualities, if you really think this way. And, if Jiang Huai ends up leaving, don't come crying to me." I paused for a moment and replied, "No, I won't." After leaving school, I followed the crowd heading home. 2 years ago, Jiang Huai got into the coal mine factory, and the villagers said, "He won't marry a country girl like you. He'll definitely stay in the city. Find a beautiful girl in there." Hearing those words at that time, I immediately panicked. In order to marry Jiang Huai, I gave up the college entrance exam and traveled alone from my hometown to the coal mine in the city to find him, insisting on marrying him. We hadn't seen each other for 3 years, and we both felt a bit unfamiliar with one another. But in the end, he followed his parents' advice, submitted a marriage application to his workplace, and married me. At first, everything seemed to go as I had hoped. Our relationship grew closer, and we became known as the loving couple in his workplace. However, everything began to change when I saw with my own eyes Jiang Huai giving half of his newly received salary to Qiao Yue and her daughter. In the evening, Jiang Huai came home as usual and placed the half-remaining grain and meat ration coupons in front of me, saying, "The factory also gave out 2 liang of white sugar. Make sure to keep it safe." His voice was still clear and crisp. Once, the sound of his voice would fill me with joy, but now, as I looked up at his handsome profile, my heart felt utterly unmoved. Ripples. Perhaps, I am really tired. I subconsciously touched the scar on my forehead, which I got half a year ago when I discovered he had secretly given the grain and meat ration coupons to his brother, the widow of my younger brother, left behind when he pushed me into the foul ditch. I stopped looking at him, got up, and went to the kitchen to cook. As usual, he finished washing up, changed into casual clothes, and came to the kitchen to help me. My hand paused while stir-frying. Who would have thought that this young and promising director of the coal mine factory would turn out to be such a gentle, considerate, and loving husband at home person? Once, I also thought I was very fortunate, but when I saw that the casual clothes he changed into were not the grey shirt I bought, my hand holding the spatula couldn't help but tremble. I tried hard to hold back my tears, telling myself I couldn't cry. However, the spatula still slipped from my hand. I left the kitchen. Jiang Huai glanced at me, took the spatula, and continued stir-frying, saying, "I know you love spicy food, so I specifically added chili to this dish. Eat more." He took off his apron, served the food, and placed it in front of me, playing the role of the good man as always. If it weren't for the lies he spun, claiming that the monthly grain and meat ration tickets were sent to his parents. If it weren't for the fact that I saw with my own eyes how he handed over his hard-earned salary to his brother's widow, if it weren't for the time he heartlessly pushed me into a filthy ditch for the sake of another woman, I simply can't believe that these outrageous actions came from the same person. I took a deep breath and told myself that since this man no longer had a place for me in his heart, I should bravely let go. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Without even guessing, I knew it was Qiao Yue bringing her child over to our house for a free meal again. I didn't move. Jiang Huai stood up to open the door and welcome their arrival. Qiao Yue's gentle and sweet voice came through. "Sister-in-law, sorry to bother you again." She wore a bright red trench coat, her fair complexion and oval face making her exceptionally captivating, with an irresistible charm in her every move. Strength. Her daughter seemed to have already gotten used to the environment here. Seeing that the meal was ready, she cheered happily and skillfully, picked up a bowl to serve rice from the pot. She first served a bowl for herself, then carefully served one for Qiao Yue as well. The mother and daughter sat down at the table, chatting and laughing with Jiang Huai as if they were the real family. While I became the outsider in this home, the extra person in the group, however, when the 3 of them began to eat, something unexpected happened. Qiao Xiaobao suddenly vomited, exclaiming as he did so, "It's so spicy, it's killing me." Qiao Yue also frowned deeply. Although she didn't say anything, her expression made it clear that she was also enduring the spiciness. Stimulating. Meanwhile, I continued eating nonchalantly, paying no attention to their distress. Seeing this, Jiang Huai quickly served each of them a bowl of soup. Unexpectedly, after drinking the hot soup, they felt even spicier. Finally, Qiao Yue, holding the tear-streaked Qiao Xiaobao, left our home. As she was leaving, she said to Jiang Huai with a sob in her voice, "Sister-in-law probably doesn't welcome me, so I won't come again in the future." After Jiang Huai saw them off at the door and returned inside, his brow was furrowed. I pretended not to see him and continued eating my meal. "Did you do that on purpose?" There was a hint of doubt in Jiang Huai's tone. Without looking up, I replied, "It's the dish you cooked." He seemed to be at a loss for words, and after a moment, he slowly said, "I only cooked one dish." Jiang Huai sighed and began repeating the excuse he had grown tired of using. Before Song Cheng passed away, he held my hand and asked, "I take extra care of them, mother and daughter." Chow Yue, being a woman raising a child alone, has a hard life, so naturally, I show more concern. "You have good cooking skills, and Xiaobao also loves the meals you prepare." Song Cheng was Jiang Huai's good friend and subordinate, who unfortunately passed away in a coal mine collapse accident. As for Song Cheng's wife, Chow Yue, she was originally a city girl, unaccustomed to hard labor and unable to carry heavy loads. After Song Cheng left, the lives of the mother and daughter fell into hardship. Jiang Huai recalled the first time he saw Chow Yue. She was wearing coarse clothes, her face covered in dust as she ate burnt food, while holding her feverish child. At that moment, he felt shocked and guilty, believing he had failed Song Cheng's trust, so he told me that taking care of Chow Yue was his responsibility, and he had to bear it. His eyes were filled with sympathy for Chow Yue, perhaps without even realizing it himself. Whenever he mentioned Chow Yue, his gaze was always full of tenderness. But to me, none of this matters anymore. I glanced at him sideways and asked coldly, "So you pitied her struggles and chose to deceive me, so you gave half of your salary to her. So you pushed me into the filthy ditch and even tried to make me serve her and her daughter every day." My words were utterly resolute, my tone icy, because I have completely lost hope in him. Jiang Huai's expression stiffened, and he tried to defend himself. "You were making a scene on the street. I just wanted you to calm down, and I accidentally pushed you into the filthy ditch. If you keep making such a fuss, what will happen to Chow Yue's reputation, as a widow with a child? How can she survive without her reputation? I never asked you to wait on them day in and day out, just to let them eat at home. Don't make it sound so harsh. Listen." The emotions I had suppressed for half a year surged like a tide, nearly overwhelming me the moment I heard him say those words. "Jiang Huai, does she take half your salary every month? Does she rely on you for support? Am I not speaking the truth? Really, did I say something wrong? I don't know if she can survive without her reputation, but if you keep supporting them like this, we won't be able to survive." Even though I had already decided to let go of this man, the bitterness of betrayal still gnawed at my heart. "Have you ever thought of me, thought of our home, thought of my reputation, thought of what I've become in the eyes of the neighbors?" Person. Tears fell like pearls from a broken string. Unstoppable. Of course he knows, but compared to Chow Yue, all of this seemed insignificant. Seeing me cry, Jiang Huai instinctively panicked and tried to explain. "Chow Yue isn't very good at cooking. I just thought the food you make is delicious, so if they came over to eat, it would just mean adding a couple more bowls and chopsticks." Seeing me cry so hard, Jiang Huai shook his head, seemingly giving in. "Since you don't like it, I won't invite them over for dinner anymore." Back in the room, I carefully hid the admission letter. This two-bedroom, one living room apartment was allocated by Jiang Huai's workplace. We each occupied a room. I opened the calendar, found the date for registering at the university next month, and circled it with a red pen. I looked at the circled date with great anticipation. Soon, I will be able to leave this place. The next day, after Jiang Huai left for work, I started packing my luggage, preparing to go back to the village in a couple of days to tell my parents the good news. The good news that I got into university, and my decision to divorce Jiang Huai. While organizing my luggage, I found the quilt cover and pillow I had secretly embroidered a few years ago. I originally planned to use them on our wedding night, but Jiang Huai and I never had a wedding ceremony. We just simply submitted the registration, reported and obtained the marriage certificate. We haven't even shared a room to this day. At first, it was because we were unfamiliar with each other. Then he became busy with work, and later on, it was because of Chow Yue and her daughter. After a moment of thought, I decided to pack these items into a bag and take them to the alley at the end of the street to sell. The things that took years to embroider were eventually sold for only $30. Although it wasn't much money, the cost of food and drinks at university would be a significant expense, so this money could be saved up. Returning home, I drew another big cross on today's calendar. There are 20 days left. After these 20 days, I will be able to leave this place where I've lived for 2 years and step into a brand new life. As for them, I shook my head and stopped thinking about it. Just someone unimportant. Jiang Huai came back very late. The prepared meal remained untouched. I already ate at the factory. He casually offered an explanation. I couldn't help but find it amusing. Since when did the factory provide meals? Catching the faint scent of perfume on him, I knew that although he had eaten dinner, it must have been with Xiao Ya and her mother. Yes, he must have known that coming back to eat would irritate me. So he took them out for a meal before returning. I silently collected the dishes and went back to my room. The room was filled with my high school textbooks and exam papers. So I bundled them up. Since we were getting a divorce, it was no longer appropriate for any of my belongings to remain here. While I was tidying up, I heard a knock at the door. I know it's Jiang Huai. He has always been very polite to me and would never step into my room without my permission. What's wrong? I didn't want him to see me packing, so I asked him a question. There was a moment of silence outside before he finally said, "Are you angry?" I glanced at the packed luggage and calmly replied, "No, I just miss my parents. I plan to go back to see them tomorrow." There was another long silence outside before I finally heard the sound of footsteps leaving. I sneered and leaned back on the bed, lost in thought. Angry? Does Jiang Huai think I'm a clay or wooden bodhisattva, devoid of emotions? Are his actions, one after another, what a husband should be doing? What reason do I have to accept someone who is two-faced, spends more than half his salary on other women, and doesn't even have me in his heart, my husband? Before Song Cheng died, I truly believed I had the happiness I had always dreamed of. My in-laws watched me grow up and treated me as if I were their own daughter. Jiang Huai was the man every girl in our village dreamed of marrying. He was handsome, successful, and always took great care of me. My feelings are so obvious that anyone with eyes can see they are entirely tied to him. After marriage, he handed over all his assets to me for safekeeping, and I thought I was enjoying an enviable, loving life. However, after Song Cheng passed away, he lied about sending half of his salary to his parents, but in reality, he secretly gave his wages to another woman. When I discovered the truth and confronted him, he actually pushed me into a filthy ditch, causing a head injury. During my hospitalization, he showed no concern for me, leaving me lying alone in the hospital while he was busy taking care of that woman's daughter. The neighbors all saw him running around for that woman and praised him for his deep brotherly affection. Indeed, he devoted too much attention to his brother's wife. What's terrifying is that he took it all for granted, believing he was merely fulfilling a promise to his deceased brother by taking care of his widow. In his eyes, my resistance and questioning were nothing but unreasonable troublemaking. In this world, what is most feared is not the inability to distinguish right from wrong, but self-deception. But now, I no longer care. Since he wants to be good to someone else's wife and care for her, then let him be. The next morning, I was surprised to find that Jiang Huai had already prepared breakfast. My favorite poached eggs and lean meat porridge. It's been 2 years since I've rarely seen him get up early to cook. After all, he has difficulty getting out of bed every time I make breakfast and have to call him for a long time before he struggles to get up. I sat down quietly, with only the occasional sound of a spoon clinking against the edge of the bowl on the dining table. Jiang Huai suddenly looked up and suggested, "I'll take a day off and go home with you." I was taken aback and instinctively shook my head. He frowned and glanced at me, saying, "I'll drive you back. I won't feel at ease if you go alone." I was about to agree, thinking it would be foolish to pass up such an offer, when I caught sight of Xiao Ya. "Ah Huai," she cried out, her face full of anxiety. But her attire, a bright red dress, a brown coat, even the strands of hair carelessly falling behind her ears. Every strand of her hair reveals the intellectual beauty of her meticulous grooming. Jiang Huai instinctively stood up and looked toward the door. Not seeing the small figure that usually followed her, he asked in confusion, "Where's Xiaobao? Why isn't he with you? Come, is something wrong?" She held back her tears, nodded, and said helplessly, "Xiaobao has a high fever. I don't know what to do." Jiang Huai was so anxious that he didn't even put on his scarf, grabbing his coat and heading out. "Wait, I'll go with you." Xiao Ya helped him adjust his coat, even carefully pulling out the collar, her gaze provocative and triumphant as it fell on me. Just as Jiang Huai was about to put on his shoes and leave, she hesitated and tugged at his sleeve. Jiang Huai was puzzled. "What's wrong?" Xiao Ya glanced at me timidly, her eyes filled with hesitation. Huai, maybe it's better not to go. I'm afraid sister-in-law might misunderstand." And she looked at me, then at Jiang Huai. tears welling up in her eyes, clenching her teeth. She turned to leave. Xiaoya, Jianghuai called out to her, turning as if to chase after her, but as if remembering something, he glanced back at me. I watched their emotional tug-of-war with a cold eye. Jianghuai's face showed conflict, and finally, blushing, he said to me, Xiaobao is sick, I have to go check on him, you'll have to take the bus alone, and be careful. After saying that, he hurriedly left. I sneered, thinking that the free ride was gone, and it seemed I'd have to take the bus home by myself. I picked up the pen and walked to the calendar again, drawing a big, harsh cross over today's date, 19 days left. I quickly gathered all the books in the house and sold them. With the $13 I got, I set off on the journey back to the village. The road home. Upon returning home, I told my parents everything that had happened over the past 6 months without holding anything back. Since I had decided to divorce Jianghuai, there would inevitably be gossip in the village, and I needed to prepare my parents mentally in advance. After listening to my account, my father let out a deep sigh, as if he had anticipated this all along. My mother, on the other hand, was furious. That scoundrel! How dare he betray my daughter? I'm going to settle the score with him. She stormed off to the kitchen to grab something and confront Jianghuai's parents. But thankfully, my father stopped her. Let it go, old lady. He gently patted his mother's back when Miu Miu gave up the college entrance exam for that boy. I knew something like this might happen, if it weren't for the fact that the Cheng couple treated Miu Miu well and she was dead set on marrying him. I would never have agreed to it. Since that bastard has someone else in his heart, let's get a divorce as soon as possible so we don't delay Miu Miu's college plans. Miu Miu's future is the most important thing. We can deal with everything else later. My mother tightly gripped my father's hand. The joy of her daughter finding her way back and getting into college again couldn't ease the pain in her heart. This woman, who has toiled for half a lifetime for her children, said with tears in her eyes and a choked voice, that heartless and ungrateful thing. I really misjudged him, and he ruined my daughter's life. Seeing my troubled expression, she quickly wiped away her tears, patted my head gently, and comforted me. It's all right, isn't everyone advocating for free love, now? You'll definitely find someone better in college. My parents, suppressing their own sorrow, comforted me for a long time before going to discuss the matter with my 3 older brothers. My brothers have hot tempers, and if not dissuaded, they might rush into the city overnight to teach Jianghuai a lesson. I returned to my room, utterly exhausted. Lying in bed, I closed my eyes, but tears uncontrollably streamed down my face. Actually, I don't want to cry. After all, everything is in the past. And I am determined to let go of that man. But that was the entirety of my youthful flutters. The sincere and passionate affection I once had for Jianghuai. After learning that the man I liked had been betrothed to me since childhood, I fantasized about our future every day. Each vision was of growing old together. When my mother came to see me, my eyes were red and swollen from crying. She held me as I fell asleep, just like when I was a child. She whispered, "My dear, you're still young. And there's a long life ahead of you. A failed marriage doesn't mean a failed life. Mom doesn't have much education and has never left this land in her life, but she hopes you can go see the world out there, to meet more and better people, your dad, your brothers, and I all hope you can be happy." The next morning when I got up, my brothers weren't home. I didn't know what they had done for me until I returned to the city. I stayed with them at home for half a month and reminded them to keep it a secret from my in-laws. Before I left, they accompanied me all the way to the village entrance, repeatedly reminding me to take good care of myself and to tell them if I ever felt wronged. When I arrived in town to buy a bus ticket, I discovered they had secretly slipped 200 yuan into my pocket. At that moment, my tears welled up again. Upon returning, I immediately marked 15 heavy crosses on the calendar. There are 4 days left, only 4 days remain. I was pulling my suitcase, about to head back to my room, when I heard the sound of the door opening. Jianghuai had just gotten off work and come home, and surprisingly, Qiao Ya and Qiao Xiaobao were following behind him. He was clearly surprised to see me. "You're back." Qiao Ya, on the other hand, maintained a reserved demeanor, gave me a slight nod, and then turned and walked into my room. I frowned, watching her effortlessly close my bedroom door. And there were my things, haphazardly piled in the living room. I turned to Jianghuai, my gaze questioning. Jiang Huai hesitated for a moment, as if only just realizing something. Well, your brothers, for some reason, ran to Xiaoya's house, beat me up, and smashed things, which caused her house to leak during the rain the past 2 days, so they're temporarily staying here for a couple of days. Since you weren't here and there aren't many things, I let Xiaoya use your room first. Is this his reason for moving my things out and letting someone else stay in my room without my permission? He saw that I was silent, paused for a moment, and added, by the way, you can move your things to my room first, you can stay with me, live together. As he spoke, he opened the bedroom door. By the way, where are your books, quilt, and pillow? Why is there so little stuff? I looked at the small package he casually placed on the bedside table and pursed my lips. Fine, then. This house is his anyway, what does it have to do with me how he arranges things? I calmly explained, the college entrance exams are over, so there's no use keeping the books. I sold them. Jiang Huai frowned. Are you confident you'll get in this time? He seemed to finally remember something and asked me excitedly, Miu Miu, did you get into university? I nodded. He naturally knew that I had retaken the college entrance exam. He occasionally tutored me, but every time. Before he could explain a few questions, Qiao Yue would call him away. Hearing my confirmation, he hugged me excitedly. Which college did you apply to? Is it a local one? If it's local, it's close to home, and I can take care of you if anything happens in the future. I pressed my lips together and didn't answer. Seeing my silence, he was about to press further. I said softly, I'm tired. Jiang Huai didn't think much of it and just nodded gently. Then you rest well. He walked out a short distance, then turned back and said, I'm going to cook, I'll call you in a bit. After he closed the door, I examined his room. 2 years ago, I had longed to share a room with him, but he always refused with various excuses. Now, because of the relationship with Qiao Yue and her daughter, I ended up moving in. What a great irony. Outside the door, the idle chatter of the three of them could be heard. The man's voice was deep, the woman's tone was delicate and soft. And the child sounded innocent and adorable. I sat silently in the chair, thinking to myself, since I plan to divorce him, is it really appropriate for us to continue living together? I've been on the road all day today and had hoped to rest early, but Xiao Xiaobao seemed to have too much energy. Dancing around the living room in a white dress and even laying out a mat to stretch her legs, from time to time, she would run into Jiang Huai's room and use his bed as a trampoline. I had to find an excuse to fetch water and walked out with a basin in hand. As soon as I stepped outside, I took a deep breath of fresh air. Moo Moo, why are you back? Didn't you say you went back to your hometown to see your parents? Seeing me come out, fifth sister-in-law from next door also picked up her wash basin and followed me toward the well. I went back for a few days and just returned today. Fifth sister-in-law is our neighbor. Her husband works as a director at the steel mill, and their family lives quite comfortably. Whenever there's something delicious, she always shares some with me. We have a pretty good relationship. Hey, I'm telling you, how could you? Fifth sister-in-law seemed to have something to say. She glanced behind me and quickened her pace, pulling me along. Only when we reached the well did she shake her head and poke my forehead, saying, how can you be so foolish? That woman is a good something. Her husband is dead and she's still flaunting herself everywhere. How could you bring her into the house? Your Jiang Huai, such a good man, is like a delicious treat everyone wants a bite of. And you're bringing him home, aren't you? Just foolish. Fifth sister-in-law chattered on, and only then did I understand that Jiang Huai had brought people back. Claiming to the outside that it was my idea, he said that I felt sorry for Qiao Yue and her daughter, who had suffered misfortune, so I asked him to bring them over before returning to my parents' home. I sneered. Jiang Huai was afraid of being blamed, so he used me as a shield. I confessed everything to fifth sister-in-law. After listening, she cursed Jiang Huai for nearly 10 minutes and gave me a lot of advice, worried that I might be bullied by Qiao Yue. She also suggested facing it together with me. I appreciated her kindness and told her I would handle it myself, so she didn't need to worry. Back in the room, the living room was already empty. I was heading to the bathroom with my clothes when I unexpectedly discovered many female items that didn't belong to me. The soap and towel I usually use were carelessly piled in the corner, right next to the trash can. They were replaced by 2 towels, one large and one small, and other toiletries. Sis, the little one really needs to use the bathroom. Could you step aside for a moment? Someone suddenly pushed me hard from behind, and my head hit the door frame again. Qiao Huaiye was already holding Qiao Xiaobao in the corner to relieve himself, after she helped Qiao Xiaobao. She saw me still standing at the door and said softly, "Sister-in-law, could you please move aside, you're blocking me." But her eyes were full of pride and disdain. I didn't back down and said coldly, "Apologize." Qiao Huaiye was stunned, clearly not expecting me to be so firm. Qiao Xiaobao had always been hostile toward me. Seeing the tension between her mother and me, she stepped forward and gave me a hard shove. Then, pointing at me, she burst into tears. Bad person, you bullied my mom, you bad woman." Hearing Qiao Xiaobao's cries, Jiang Huai hurried out of the room. "What's wrong? What happened?" He picked up the child with a pained heart, while Qiao Huaiye looked pitiful and vulnerable. "It's all my fault, all my fault. Xiaobao needed to use the bathroom urgently, and my sister-in-law happened to be in there. I wanted to ask her to let us use it." But then, Qiao Huaiye's explanation was choked with tears. Jiang Huai immediately shot me a reproachful look. Although he didn't say anything in front of Qiao Huaiye, his actions had already made his feelings clear. Took a stance, he comforted little Bao while saying, There, don't cry, little Bao. Godfather will scold the aunt later and make her give you, apologize." "Okay." Seeing the child still throwing a tantrum, he carried her back into the house, saying he would give her candy. Qiao Huaiye glanced at me with a mocking smile and followed Jiang Huai back into the house. As the crying gradually faded, I finished bathing expressionlessly and gathered my toiletries into the basin. Back in the room, Qiao Huaiye had already taken the child into their room. Seeing me come in, Jiang Huai paused his tidying up and said, "Have a seat." I knew he wanted to talk to me, probably about how the child is still young, not to take it to heart, and that they'll understand when they grow up. Now, I should go and apologize to the child or something like that. I obediently sat down, gently wiped the injured spot on my head with a tissue, and handed the blood-stained tissue to him. The sound in his throat abruptly stopped, and his expression turned grim. "I'll sleep in the living room." I picked up the quilt and opened the door. Jiang Huai thought I was still angry about what had just happened and sighed as he pulled me back into the room. "Xiaobao is still a child, and Xiaoya didn't mean it. You're already 20 years old. Don't hold a grudge against a child. I know you don't like Xiaoya, but she's had a hard time too. Don't be so petty." "Okay," I sneered and retorted. "So, you brought them back and said it was my idea." Jiang Huai's expression changed, but he still defended himself. "Wasn't that your brother's doing? If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have brought Xiao Huaiye over." Twisting the truth was his specialty, and I had no intention of arguing with him further. I looked straight at him and smiled. I heard my own voice say, "Jiang Huai, let's get a divorce." Jiang Huai suddenly looked up, staring at me in disbelief. Why? Because no matter how eloquently you speak, it doesn't change the restlessness and filth in your heart." I remained silent. After a moment of thought, he asked, "Is it because of Qiao Huaiye?" He seemed to have suffered a great injustice and was eager to explain, but all he could come up with were those same old clichés. I cut him off directly. "Jiang Huai, the way you deceive yourself is just like a clown." Jiang Huai opened his mouth but couldn't utter a single word. That night, Jiang Huai spent the entire night in the living room. The next day when I woke up, I found Qiao Huaiye and her mother packing their bags. I had no intention of paying them any attention, but Qiao Huaiye stood in front of me and said, Huai has fixed up the house for me. It must have cost a lot of money." She covered her mouth and laughed, her eyes full of pride, then asked, "Sister-in-law, you don't mind, do you?" I smiled and replied, "Of course I don't mind. My husband gives you half of his salary and takes such good care of you and your daughter. What's a little money compared to that?" I continued. "How about this? You tell him to divorce me, otherwise, as you know, if his workplace finds out about your affair, Jiang Huai won't come out of it unscathed, and your support system will likely gone." Qiao Huaiye's triumphant expression vanished instantly, and she said fiercely, "Don't get too cocky. No matter what, you can't compete with me." After saying that, she slammed the door shut with force. Qiao Huaiye's hostility toward me always becomes glaringly obvious whenever Jiang Huai isn't around. In the evening, I unexpectedly received a call from my mother-in-law. She asked me why I hadn't visited them after returning to my hometown and whether I had a conflict with Jiang Huai. I remained silent. On the other end of the line, my mother-in-law seemed to have guessed something. sighed, and hung up the phone. Xiao Ya and her daughter moved out, and I returned to my own room. The next day, I went to the street and bought a very popular bright red wool suit, along with a lipstick, planning to wear it when I go to university, dress up nicely. When I went home to try on the new clothes, an extra figure suddenly appeared in the mirror. Jiang Huai looked at me, his eyes lighting up. Miu Miu, you should dress up more often, it looks really good on you. I didn't respond and silently changed my clothes. This was the first thing Jiang Huai said to me since I brought up the divorce. The irony is, in the 2 years we were married, I never once dressed up. I was only 20, an age when one should care about appearance, yet I always wore coarse clothes. Thinking I could help him save money, during these 3 days, Jiang Huai surprisingly stayed at home. Even though Xiao Ya came to see him several times, he did not go out. On the final night, Jiang Huai seemed to want to say something to me, but was interrupted by a small figure who came running late at night. Godfather. Xiao Bao's hair was disheveled, and as soon as he entered, he buried himself in Jiang Huai's arms. Jiang Huai instinctively glanced toward the door. Xiao Bao, it's so late at night. How did you come here alone? Where's your mom? Xiao Bao, with a tearful voice, mumbled, Godfather, Mom is sick. Mom has been sleeping. And Xiao Bao couldn't wake her up no matter how much I called. Upon hearing this, Jiang Huai instantly grew anxious. He held Xiao Bao, looking at me with a troubled expression on his face. While comforting the crying child, Jiang Huai said to me, I'll go check it out. I'll definitely be back tonight. Wait for me. He left holding Xiao Bao. Watching his retreating figure, I decided to write the words I had intended to say tonight in a letter. Apart from his neglect of the family after Song Cheng left, apart from his entanglement with Xiao Ya, just looking at my marriage over these 2 years, he has shouldered my life, without me having to work. Considering my young age, he doesn't engage in intimate activities with me, encourages me to retake the college entrance exam, and even sometimes tutors me with my homework. Based on these, I should make things clear between him and me. In the letter, I expressed my determination to get a divorce, pointed out his affair with Xiao Ya, and hoped he would agree to the divorce and tell him which university I applied to. I also told him that if he agreed to the divorce, he should write to the university I would be attending, and I would return to handle it then. The next day, I left the letter on the table and dragged my luggage to the train station. The 2-day train journey was bumpy and unsteady, and I could only manage to doze off in a half-awake state. Finally, after a bumpy ride, I arrived at the school and let out a long sigh of relief. After completing the enrollment procedures, the intense study life began immediately. A month later, I received a letter from Jiang Huai. In the letter, he firmly stated that he would not agree to the divorce. He claimed that he still loves me in his heart. He also explained that he has no connection with Xiao Ya, knowing that I dislike her, and he promised not to see her again in the future. He hoped that I would go back. I put the letter away and did not reply. Jiang Huai sends a letter every month, and I receive each one, but I never respond. In the last month of the semester, he mentioned that he would come to accompany me and take me home. However, Jiang Huai did not come as promised. In the letter, he suddenly agreed to the divorce and asked me to return home. It was the end of the semester, and I returned home from my brothers. I learned that Xiao Ya was pregnant, and her family had come to make a scene, demanding that Jiang Huai take responsibility. Rumors were spreading everywhere, and for the sake of his own future and reputation, Jiang Huai had no choice but to agree to divorce me. I saw Jiang Huai again at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. The first thing he said to me was, "I'm sorry." Then he told me that those rumors were deliberately spread by Xiao Ya because she wanted Jiang Huai to marry her. So Xiao Ya resorted to extreme measures. Even at the cost of her own reputation and Jiang Huai's future, she achieved her goal. She forced Jiang Huai to marry her. Jiang Huai covered his face and wept, tears falling with his sobs. Moo moo, I truly regret it deeply. Looking at him, I suddenly felt grateful that he had sternly rejected my attempts to get close to him when I was young and naive. Otherwise, if we had had a child together, whether this marriage ended or continued, it would have been a tragedy. At the moment I received the divorce certificate, I finally felt relieved. No matter how much pain or disappointment this marriage brought me in the past, it is all over now. I will embrace a new life of my own. After graduation, I devoted myself to the nation's construction. This life is dedicated to the country, without questioning east or west, without considering the return journey. I will remain steadfast until the end of my life. Zhenghuai's extra story. After leaving that day, I took Qiao Huaiye to the hospital. By the time she received treatment, it was already 3 or 4 in the morning. Qiao Huaiye suggested that since it was so late, I should rest at the hospital and go back the next day. I thought that since it was so late, Miu Miu would already be asleep. So I agreed to stay. Little did I know that when I returned the next day, I would never see her again. I went to Miu Miu's room and saw the letter she had left behind. In the letter, she said she wanted a divorce from me. She accused me of always using the excuse of taking care of my brother's widow to get close to Qiao Huaiye. She said that if Song Cheng knew how I was taking care of his wife, he would probably be so angry that he'd come running out of the underworld. Reading her letter, I reflected on a lot of things. I realized my mistake. While waiting for Miu Miu to grow up, my feelings had wavered. In the process of helping Qiao Huaiye time and again, my heart strayed. Xiaoya's thoughtfulness and Xiaobao's cheerful cuteness made me overlook the fact that I already have a wife, leading me to do something I am ashamed of. Shameful act. Looking at the place where she went to college, she actually went so far away just to avoid me. I immediately wrote to her. She never replied. That night, I drank too much, and Qiao Huaiye sneaked into the house. In my drunken state, I mistook her for Miu Miu and made an irreparable mistake. A month later, Qiao Huaiye became pregnant. And she started making a scene, with her family also coming to cause trouble. Suddenly, rumors about me and Qiao Huaiye spread throughout the neighborhood and around the factory. Eventually, I had to divorce Miu Miu and marry Qiao Huaiye. After marrying Qiao Huaiye, she seemed to have completely changed. Always being on edge, several opportunities for promotion were lost because of her outbursts. Watching my friends get promoted one by one while I remained stagnant, she called me a failure. My life with Qiao Huaiye eventually reached a point where we despised each other. I often can't help but wonder, if I had never provoked Qiao Huaiye in the first place, would everything have been different? I have no way of knowing the answer. However, my entire life has truly been meaningless. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.